Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. Sorry we were a little late. We were just getting some technical issues out of the way. Robyn Griggs Wiley is best known for her role of Stephanie Hobart on ABC's One Life to Live and Maggie Cory on NBC's Another World, for which she was nominated for a Young Artist Award. Her credits include independent horror films such as Zombiegeddon and Ghost Tour, and she has hosted the horror convention Twisted Nightmare Weekend. Robyn also has a CD entitled Love's Young Nightmare. In 2020, she was diagnosed with stage 4 endocervical adeno, or cervical cancer, and is in the fight for her life. It's my pleasure to welcome her to the locker room today, Robyn Griggs Wiley. Thanks so much for being here, Robyn. Hi, Robyn.
Hey, hi. Sorry.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. The technical stuff is
that's harder than anything right now, is it?
Yes, it is. But no, things are going good, moving along.
Good. Well, you look, like I told you backstage, you look beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's kind of weird without hair right now, but you know, you do what you got.
Did you yeah, you do, you know. Did you contemplate a wig, or were you always, I'm going to do my natural state?
I have a lot of wigs and I love them, but I think it's important right now for me to just be me and show who I am. But I do have those moments where I want to wear like a pink wig that my niece got me, or, you know, change it up a little bit, red, blonde, you know, it's kind of fun actually. And I'm saving a lot on hair products. So
yeah, I bet. You know, my mother passed away from lung cancer, and she had lost her hair, and she my friends always called her the diva, and she had wigs, but then at one point she did it just like me. She had it really short, and I loved it. The natural state is a beautiful thing for everybody.
Yeah, it's so weird to wake up, and I have dreams where I'm like, you know, have my blonde hair and, you know, and all this. And then there are times that I catch myself like, you know, trying to move hair off of my neck type of thing just from habit.
Right. Like
have anything. It's like, the hair flip isn't working today.
Wait, you know, that's so funny. You know, like, have you ever had that moment? Because I know a lot of people talk about it, where you carry a cell phone in your pocket and it's not in your pocket, but you sometimes feel it's there vibrating.
Yes.
And it's like, you probably feel like, you know, sometimes you have a hair in your face or something.
Yes, it's constant. It's like, and I kind of play with people too. Like I'll pretend I'm brushing stuff on my, you know, I'll be like, you know, all this, and people are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, oh, my hair is so long. It's like in my way.
You have a great spirit.
Thank you.
In layman's terms, can you explain what your diagnosis was and what that?
It was very strange. I have a rare form. I'm stage 4 endocervical adeno. But on top of that, I had masses on my stomach, and you know, it came out of nowhere. Honestly, it really it just took me by storm, and somehow the doctors and also all the prayers from people and just being positive, I think, got me to where I'm at. I had surgery December 22nd. And the surgery was successful. We got all visible cancer out. They did, yes. they did find things they weren't expecting in there. Like they took my appendix out. It turned out that I had cancer in there. I mean, it was all over the place. But
when you had the initial diagnosis, were you not feeling well? Is that, you know?
Yes. You know, I always was one of those people that's like a go-getter, and I'm gonna, you know, conquer the world, and who needs doctors? And, you know, well, it got to a point where, I mean, to be blunt, I wasn't even able to urinate. like it was trickling. And I hate to say that to everybody, but it's the
Well,
truth.
but I think your message is really go to the doctor.
It honestly is. I had no idea that I had anything wrong with me. And I went in for, a gyno visit and came out with a mass on my cervix. And the next step, I ended up in the hospital and was told, you're terminal. And there was no big hope for me, to be honest. And I think I'm proof that someone can tell you that, but it doesn't mean that's going to happen. And I refuse to give up. I'm a fighter. I am Maggie Cory.
That's great. That's great. And you do, everybody in those types of situations, you have to be your cheerleader, your go-getter, your fighter.
Yes.
If you're not fighting, no one else is going to fight. You have to at least be that first person to take it on and say, I'm going to, do my part.
I didn't do that well at the beginning. I kept it very quiet. I didn't want anyone to know. My husband and my little dog, Ralphie, really kind of started the ball rolling. Like, you are going to beat this. This is the way it's going to go. And thank the Lord for Mark. My husband, Mark, I love him dearly. He has been there through thick and thin, and and little Ralphie, who's, well, he's named after the Christmas story. That should say it all.
Yeah, that's great.
But
love that.
24
hours of a Christmas story.
It is every day. But I think I learned that, it's okay to have something wrong with you. It's okay not to have the long flowing blonde hair and look beautiful all the time, and to have these moments. And I think I learned so much about myself in the fact that you have to, it has to come from within. Your positivity has got to be there, because if it isn't, you're going to be a sinking ship. And the more positive I was, I found my results were getting better. And it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And, these doctors, shout out to Dr. Rosado and Dr. Yamada and Dr. Roy in Illinois. They just were like, we're doing this. We're going to beat this. And
I love that you always do that, though, give them the shout out.
Oh, I mean, it's incredible what they've done. And while there's no answers really today on how far I've come, I don't think anyone expected it, but I'm doing pretty well. I had a CT scan, and
you said that you were given terminal. Was there an expectancy for you at that point?
No one really said anything. It was basically, we don't know what we can do, but we'll do chemo treatments and we'll treat you. There was never a moment where I was to have surgery. And there is a level where they do this blood work and it's the CA125 level, and that's your tumor marker. And my tumor marker was 1,150. Yes, and the normal range is 0 to 30. So there wasn't, it was crazy. And somehow in the 6 months of, chemo, or the 6 cycles of chemo, I ended up having surgery. I got it down to 36. And, they went in, they did surgery, they removed all visible cancer. So everything left was kind of microscopic. And then recently, I still have to have treatments. I still have to go through that, but not full chemo. I'm having what's called Avastin, which is kind of a wonder drug. It kind of hits it before it can spread and stuff, and it's working. But my CT scan,
that's all that matters.
yes, and the CT scan
That is
said that my lymph nodes in my pelvis are very small, and that my abnormal masses have not appreciated. So nothing's spreading and nothing's growing at this point. So I'm gonna keep fighting.
Well, you should. You said that Mark and the pup were the only, who really knew. Was there something that hit you that said I should share this?
Well, Mark knew, and of course Ralphie. Ralphie was the first sign. Ralphie was laying across my stomach, and he never did that. And that's what really got me to go to the doctor. And that's a true story. He wouldn't leave my side, and he laid across my stomach. But Mark shared it with the family, both sides of the family. And my sister Wendy, I called her my press secretary. She was like going through and like, okay, this is what's going on today, and she was an EMT, so she understood the medical stuff and was spreading it to everybody. But the whole family rallying around me gave me the courage to share it also with social media and online, because what I realized then was this might help somebody. What I'm going through, and to know what I'm going through, might really just help somebody and help them, if not help them get through it, at least give them some sort of encouragement, or also help people that are surrounding them to kind of have an idea of how to deal with what's going on. Because it's hard. You break down, you cry, and for me, it's worse. Yeah. I'm an actress.
So. Well, I mean, just also, medical stuff isn't easy to understand for us layman people. No. It really isn't. That's why, I said that. I mean, I know from both my parents had many hospital stays. You shared it on Facebook, and the reaction of helping you with the medical expenses. I'm sure there are people watching today, fans watching today who contributed. What was that like for you?
First of all, it was very hard to admit that you needed help. And that I needed help. My first reaction when I was diagnosed was, how am I going to get treatment? How am I going to pay for this? And that, I have a feeling, is a lot of people's reaction is, oh my gosh, when you hear about chemotherapy, it's a big business. So you're thinking, this is going to cost a lot.
The medical expenses is a huge business. It's ridiculous.
I can't even express to you. And for me, not being really young, I'm 47, proud of it. And I'm not elderly, but I'm not a child either. So the resources are kind of different. And there are resources.
Right. You're in the, I know, right. I didn't, for a minute. Yeah. For a minute, I wasn't sure what you meant, but you're right. You're not at that point where the government or the states help you, and you're not able to be on your parents' insurance anymore.
Right. It's a hard thing, and insurance does cover, and I want everyone to know, and the insurance does help a lot, but depending on what your treatment is, it does not take care of everything. And like, for instance, Avastin is over $15,000 per infusion, and I get it every 14 days. So it's it's a lot. And my family put together fundraisers and everything, and I don't know how I could have gotten where I'm at, or just emotionally it's draining to know the bills, and just the fact that my bills are, and the support from people, the fundraising has been unbelievable. And And it's gotten me to meet new people, like people that I've never been in contact with. You know, I don't consider people fans. I consider them friends. And whether they're
Well,
sending
you're
me,
family to them, you know.
well, you know,
We're, you know, the daytime audience,
yes,
consider, you know, I grew up watching As the World Turns and Guiding Light. That was my, you know, and then I worked there. But, you know, they were my family when I was a fan. You know,
right,
you look at those people as, because you see them 5 days a week. It's just,
yes,
you know, it's just that thing. I mean, it's like that repetitive. It's, you know, you see them more than sometimes you see your own family.
right,
You
yes.
really do, you know. So it's a really unique bond is what
And it's a
daytime created.
it's really a blessing, and it's been a blessing because it's helped me get through this. You know, I have
Well,
strength
good.
because I can tell people I don't feel well. I can say I don't have energy today. I can say I'm having a great day. And it doesn't matter what, they're always there to kind of lift me up, and that's huge. That is huge in this battle, and I think that's huge in any battle. It doesn't matter what
Correct.
disease you have. It doesn't matter if you have a cold or anything. I think having people there to just, you know, give you the air hug through your
The
social
virtual
media.
hug these days.
The
The virtual hug.
hug
Yeah.
is amazing. And you know, and then to go through this during such a weird time for everybody. Everybody's going through something. I'm not alone in going through something. Everyone is.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's, excuse me, but it's crappy what we're all going through. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
it feels like it's getting better, but you never know. You know, from day to day, you hear all sorts of different things going on. And, you know,
No.
it's just a weird time that we are going through.
Well, your spirit is fantastic.
Well,
And I know this audience will beat me up if we don't get to the daytime stuff, but I want to go back earlier because I read that you started acting at 3.
Yes.
How
Yes.
how did that
Well,
happen?
I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
yes, I have 3 sisters and a brother. Hi, I know they're watching.
That's great.
And my poor parents. Hi, mom and dad. They they had to deal with me. And as you can tell, I'm full of energy. Like I'll have energy like this right now, and then it'll be gone in an hour. But I did dance lessons, I did singing lessons, and my brother-in-law, he was a director of the high school plays and stuff. And I guess what really happened was he asked me to be in an Ibsen play called A Doll's House. And on top of that, people were kind of calling the house asking if I'd sing and like different things. And my parents are like, what? You know, so I had a bug, and it all began with Donna Summers.
Get out. I love that. That's so funny.
Yes, I used to sing out loud, belting out anytime
Was
it was on the radio.
was that from your parents playing her?
Well, you know what? I grew up around music. I had a grandmother that was a piano teacher. And then my grandfather, he actually played with one of the Dorseys. So, and he did stand-up bass. So I have kind of a history, and my family loves all types of music. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, 70s, 80s, hard rock. Like my mother loves Ted Nugent. So,
wow. What's your favorite Donna Summer?
Well, my whole career began with MacArthur Park, because I always wondered why someone would leave a cake out in the rain. And this bothered me. I was little. But, you know, I think she just had such a strong and meaty voice, and I just loved her. And then I also loved Gene Kelly. Talk about, oh my gosh, Gene Kelly. Like, yeah.
I haven't seen enough of his movies, but him and Olivia Newton-John together is enough for me.
Oh,
in Xanadu. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always loved Gene Kelly. I loved Singing in the Rain. He was one of the guys that would sing and he would dance, but he had this physique about him where he looked like he could go out and play a sport. You know what I mean? Like and I just loved him. But it all kind of began that way. And once I got on stage, I did this play. I played Emily in a Doll's House, and the girl forgot her lines. And I knew it had something to do with wolves, and I covered the line. And that kind of was it. And when I would hear the feedback from the audience, that was it. I mean, it was so bad that even at dance recitals, I would go up at curtain call. I didn't care what other dance team was going on. I'd go in the center of the stage and curtsy. So it was my show. And so I've always had kind of a thing for stage, and then fell into, TV commercials, and I mainly sing is what my main thing is. And I kind of fell into that.
You mainly sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow?
Oh, yes. Tomorrow. The weird thing is you never lose that voice. Like, you were trained as a child for Annie. And it's like right now, like I'll do it right now. The sun will come out tomorrow. It's like, it doesn't matter how old you get. It's in there. So I'm used to doing that, and unfortunately.
Do you know how many times you played her?
Oh my! I played her. I played Annie from the time I was 8 till 13. The age of 13 was my last one, and all over the place. And I never played any other role other than Annie. And what's weird is my Wikipedia, someone wrote, and it's like completely wrong because it says I played Molly. Never played Molly.
That's so fun. You probably can change that.
What?
You could probably change that to correct it. I don't know. There must be a way.
Yeah, at one point it said I have brown eyes, which I don't. I don't know, but whoever's Wikipedia is, it's pretty good.
and do you remember how One Life to Live came about?
Well, this is a funny and weird story. One of the plays I was in when I was really, really young was Fiddler on the Roof in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And the girl that played Hava, Eileen Kennedy, I just loved her. I was real little. And years later, somehow she got in touch with us, and she was interning, I think, for ABC. I'm not positive. I think it was an internship. And she said, there's this role here that Robyn is perfect for. And got in touch with my manager. The weird thing was I never saw her in all those years since I was little. So it was kind of weird. I think she came across maybe a picture or something. I don't know. But so they arranged for me to come in on the open call. I went in, and there were gorgeous, gorgeous girls everywhere. I mean, they were models. They were definitely models. And I just thought, okay, I'm just going to go in and be me. And I went in, and met Linda Gottlieb, read for her, and then left, and then I was called back and I read again. And then, now this is a drive for my parents. This is a 4.5-hour drive from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So, yeah. So
thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yes, thank you. And so what ended up happening was we were driving home, and apparently on the answering machine was, you need to get Robyn back into New York right away. We're going to screen test her tonight. So yeah, so we got home, got that message, and my mom's like, I'm tired of driving. So my dad left work. He worked for RCA and drove me back in. And I screen tested. And then I'll never forget, it was a Friday.
Do you remember with who?
It was by myself. I didn't even screen test with anybody. I don't
Wow.
think I screened. I think it was someone reading the lines because it was so impromptu. It was
Right.
just
It wasn't,
like,
they didn't plan it. They just turned it around. And
yeah. And I remember that whole weekend, Eileen Kennedy gave us in Fiddler on the Roof a penny. And it had, the casing for like collectible coins, the cardboard casing, and it said 1 kopeck. And I held that thing all weekend. I was like, this is my lucky penny. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. Didn't hear anything until, I had to go the whole weekend like that. I'm like, oh. And then Monday came and my manager called my parents and I heard my mom going, oh, okay, I'll let you tell her. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what? So got on the phone with my manager and I'm like, yeah, I kind of have an idea. I didn't get it. And she said, no, you got it. I was like, oh, that's a bad trick to do to me. So I was really excited, but I was supposed to be recurring. The character of Stephanie was a recurring contract that ended up a regular contract. So that was my first real, big step into soaps and dramatic stuff because I always was singing, I always was acting and singing in the same thing. So.
And do you remember your first day?
Yes, my first day was rather strange too, because I had no idea what to expect. I had the lines there and I was stepping into someone else already was playing the role and I was like within days filling in as this character, and completely different looking, so it was strange. And so I never met any of the actors yet. And I went in and first scene is with Tom Christopher. And, I'm just holding my own. I'm doing my lines and everything. And I about fell to my knees when he walked on that set, though, to be honest. It was the most starstruck. Well, him and A. Martinez. But I was so starstruck because he was Hawkman on Buck Rogers, and I loved Buck Rogers. Oh my gosh, I was like,
did you know that before you got there, or you didn't?
No, he walked on set, and I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, that's Hawkman. And then to find out he's my uncle, I mean, it was crazy, and he was so sweet. He was just so kind.
He's a class act.
Oh, he is completely. He would run lines with me. He just, and the whole time I'm like, he is Hawkman. Like, he's awesome.
You must have learned a lot working with him and Tanya Walker and Erica.
I love Tanya. Tanya was my dressing room mate. And
fun.
I love Tanya. And Tanya is still in contact with me. Tanya really, so beautiful, number one. In person, I mean, you don't realize some of these people that are gorgeous on screen are even prettier in person. And she's one of those people. Her eyes just sparkle. But she is such a gentle soul, so sweet. And she really took me under her wing. And when it came time for, the Who Killed Carlo type of thing, and she and I worked together a lot, which was a blessing. And I was so fortunate to work with those people, and it was training.
It's school, isn't it? It's like, it's the best kind of, It's the best kind of school I can imagine.
It's training,
Yeah.
and little did I know it was going to step in and help me in the future, So that, and then my Emmys experience, my very first Emmys I went in and I saw A. Martinez. And I was just like, oh my goodness. And I didn't know that like paparazzi knew me. I had no idea. And they were like, Robyn, can you stand next to A and, and get a picture? And I was like, really? Like, really? Can I get a copy? Like, I thought it was like, what? And I went up to him and, stood with him and I whispered, I said, can I get your autograph? And he looked at me and he goes, only if I can have yours. And I was like, ah.
That's a really sweet thing to say. What did you know him from at that time?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara.
Yeah. Oh, I was a
Cruz Castillo.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes. And it's funny, I would end up meeting so many different people from that show and become friends with people. And it was just bizarre, and now looking back, it's like when I ended up on Another World, at that point, I knew what to expect. On One Life to Live, I had no idea what to expect. So it was kind of
it helped.
Frightening.
Right. Yeah, because you're thrown in, and then Another World, you're kind of prepared. One of our fans, Kevin, was asking, did they ever ask you to come back in '96 when they brought Carlo back from the dead?
You know what? At that point, I'm trying to think. At that point, after I left, no, not on One Life to Live, because after I left the contract on Another World, I then did stage again. Actually, I was doing stage again, and I kind of needed a break because my whole life I was, on stage or doing commercials, or I sang the Archway cookie jingle. It's like I did Nickelodeon, MTV. So I think I got to a point where it was like I was becoming self-destructive. I was doing anything basically to get myself out of the limelight there for a while, but
well, one of the fans, Vasario, says Robyn should be back in daytime. Maybe Young and the Restless.
I would love it. I would just absolutely love to be on another show, and I'm ready.
That's good.
I'm ready.
So how did the role in Bay City come along?
Well, I wasn't going to do another soap. I swore I wasn't. And first audition I agreed to after I moved to LA was Another World. And it was...
Of course, right?
And Julian McMahon and I had to go in. We were side by side, and because we both entered Bay City at the same time. And,
gotcha.
Julian, of course, Australian and had the accent. I'm like, that is awesome, But I met him and, read for the role. Didn't think anything of it. It was that time of my life where I was like, I either do well or I don't, Wasn't expecting much. I knew it was a New York soap, so I wasn't expecting them to hire someone from LA and, all that. And, turns out my manager got a call. We need her on a plane. We want her to come out to New York. And I'm thinking, I just left New York.
Isn't that how it works?
Yes. And the role was Joy Lamont. I'll never forget. So I went and I just went in and read. And
that's what it said on the character, Joy Lamont?
Yes, it was Joy Lamont. It had nothing to do with a Cory. It was this rebellious girl, and when they wanted me to fly out there, I didn't fly out there. I missed the plane on purpose because I just wasn't sure I wanted to do this again. And they flew out to me, basically. They had people meet me at NBC, and I read, and then I officially flew out. I screen tested, but there was like 20 some girls. I mean,
did you screen test with somebody for that? Do you remember?
Ricky Paul Golden.
Ah, my buddy Ricky.
I love Ricky. Ricky and I had so much fun. And the screen test, I was like, I don't even know if I know these lines or whatever, but he is such an easy person to act with, because he'll do anything to keep the scene going, you know, to meaning to just get to the point and we'll be done and we don't have to do it again. And so we like ad-libbed pretty much through the whole thing. But the one thing I do remember is the character had to sing. And I sang "You Don't Bring Me Flowers," Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, I
and
know
everyone
that.
else was singing like pop stuff at the time, and I was like singing Barbra Streisand. I don't care. As a solo, a duet as a solo, and turns out I got the role. And Maggie,
and you sang on the show. Do you remember what you? So
yeah.
Do you remember any of what you sang?
Oh, sure. A light shines, and I mean, there were so many different things because Ricky played a like rock star.
Yep.
And
Dean Frame, right?
Dean Frame, yes. And I was so lucky. I got to work with, you know, the Dean and Jenna storyline, and you know, Alla was so sweet and wonderful and really nice people. Alicia Coppola, you know, just.
No, I don't know her well, but I did a show with her. I love her. She's wonderful. So funny. So funny.
She is really, she's got this dry, delivery, and it's perfect. And she's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, when I met her, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a model, because she's tall, she's thin, she's stunning. And, but so nice. And Another World, really, you know, the acting on that show was phenomenal. I mean, Charles Keating, Victoria Wyndham, you know, a lot of...
Charles was your what?
What?
Charles was your what?
Charles Keating was my buddy.
But
he was my Sean Connery.
That's what I want.
You know, the first time I had to like even meet him was we were on set, and he leans over to me for no reason whatsoever and says, you know, there's no smoking in here. Well, I don't even smoke. I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? And it was to just get me to like break, you know, concentration and just kind of loosen up and talk to him, and just to throw me off guard a little bit. And he and I ended up such dear friends. And you could see we loved working together. I mean, it showed on screen. A lot of people loved the whole thing with Maggie and Carl. And
I mean, you really, One Life to Live in Another World. I mean, you were surrounded by these incredibly talented, you know, sort of mentors.
Yes. On One Life to Live, Erica Slezak, you know, Bob Woods, Phil Carey. I loved Phil Carey. Everyone's like, don't talk to him. Don't bother him. And here I ended up dear friends with him. So, because I'm one of those people, it's like, it takes a lot to hate me. And if you do, then you got a problem. Not me.
And you also at Another World worked with Diego, right?
Oh, Diego. You know what? Diego and I'll never forget, I screen tested a bunch of guys, like 2 days worth of guys. And Eddie Cybran was one of them.
Oh, wow.
You know, I'm drawing a blank, but Jenny Garth's ex-husband was one of them. There was like a whole group of guys. And Diego came on there, and he was so different. He was really, really different from everybody else. And he had, a problem with speech. He's from Ecuador and stuff. And he had, a real tough time enunciating and stuff. But we just worked. We worked well. And during that screen test, it came across. And I'll never forget asking, well, who got the role? And I said, was it that Diego guy? And they said, yes. And I'm like, yes. And I got in contact with him actually before he started. And I always had a New Year's Eve party for my family and stuff. And I invited him, but he was in California at the time. But we were dear friends. And that's so important when you're working so close to someone, to just have that friendship. And we always did. We never had any issues or anything. And, we would run lines together. I'd say, come on, let's run lines. And, he always was there for me and I always was there for him. And,
And you were out in Brooklyn, right?
Yes, we worked at the Cosby Studios in Brooklyn. So when you're there, it does become a close family. You're not going anywhere. You're staying in the building. You're not,
Yeah.
I did venture out quite a bit, though, to the hot dog stands on the corner. There was one by the studio. I love vendor hot dogs in New York. I do.
That's so funny.
They remind me of Kittens.
I have not had one in years.
Oh, they are so good. I know they're not good for you, but it doesn't matter. They're really good. They are.
Hey, tasty things are always worth the treat. Do you have a favorite role to date that you've played?
Probably Maggie, just because it was so much me, but it
got to sing and.
Yeah, it really, it was written like I spoke everything. And I just enjoyed it. I had a very favorite role that was from a play called A Children's Hour, which was based on The Bad Seed. And I played Rosalie in that. And that was my first time on stage in other than the Ibsen play, but in a straight drama. And I played this girl who was bullied and I cried all the time. That was one of my favorite roles because it was very challenging. But I'm one of those people, you stick something in front of me, I'm gonna try and do it justice, but I'm also gonna hopefully learn from it. And I learned so much from all these roles. But Maggie,
what do you think you learned in date? What are the biggest lessons you took away from your daytime experiences?
I think you're disciplined. You have to be disciplined. It's almost like a play where you don't get a second shot at that episode. You're doing a different episode every day. So your work ethic, your respect of your peers. Also, I would watch people. I'd watch the other actors, whether I was in a scene or not, and take something from them because I never trained in acting. I always did in singing and dancing and stuff, but never acting. And so that was my acting, and the more I could take, from someone's performance that moved me was what I tried to do, and I think also another thing that is how much I love it. I loved being on soaps. And sometimes people be like, oh, she's a soap actress. You know what? It's hard. You're doing the same character, but you're doing a different script every day. So there's no repeats,
Yeah, there's definitely not.
No repeats. So I realized how much I'd love to do it again.
Oh, good. Hopefully you'll absolutely get the chance. One of the fans, Eric, was jealous that you got, 2 weeks with testing guys.
Well,
somebody's got to do it.
It's a tough life. And, I thought it was so funny when I had to do the screen test because I was like, what's going on here? Because usually in a screen test, it's just, you're talking. There's never a kiss. They wrote in a kiss. I had to kiss all those guys. It was so
Because
fun.
they were putting you together. That's where the chemistry test really is.
Yeah, I blush. I do. I blush, and I was like, like it feels awkward, but then after a while, when Diego got hired, we were kissing every episode. So it was just kind of like, okay, here we go. Yep. And this must be where we kiss. Okay. But yeah. And now I only kiss one guy. So
yeah. So speaking of that one guy, how did you meet Mark?
I met Mark. I was with family, or no, actually with friends, and we went out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I was visiting family, and he was there with a friend of his, and the friend recognized me. And Mark had no clue who I was, because Mark didn't watch my show. Mark watched Days of Our Lives. So we ended
You're
up
not holding a grudge.
never. But we ended up speaking, and we talked about everything but, soaps and everything. We talked about Atari. I'm a huge sports fan, so we talked about sports a lot.
Which sport?
Oh, well, here, I have to represent. Got my socks here.
Socks, there you go. So baseball? Baseball's your...
I like baseball, and I like football. I like Tyrann Mathieu from the Chiefs. I'm more of like a player follower type of thing. Yeah. But so we talked, and we ended up going on a date like a few days later, and I never left, and that's what happened.
And you're still there.
I'm still with him, still here. Poor guy.
And he's not in this business.
Not at all. No, Mark is a PGA golf professional. So he's a golfer, and I am clearly not a golfer. I like the outfits, though. Yeah, I like the outfits, but
So he's a player in the PGA.
He's an athlete. Yeah, he's an athlete.
Wow, that's awesome.
But we recently moved to Arizona. He's going to be a head pro at a club here, Flagstaff Ranch, and I love it here, but it keeps snowing. Like, I thought Arizona was like, you don't get snow.
I didn't think so either.
No, where we're at is like it's like the Poconos. Like,
wow.
Yeah, but hey, I'm loving it.
Hey, that's all that matters, and there's a lot of sun there, and sun's always good on the for the soul.
Yes.
What about your horror films? Did you enjoy those experiences?
I had so much fun with those.
And horror films, sorry to interrupt, but horror films don't attract just like a cult following, don't they?
It's amazing, because I have to credit also the horror fans with helping me through this whole cancer thing, because they are diehard people too. They're wonderful friends, and this horror films. I grew up watching horror movies with my brother Sean, and my favorite is the original My Bloody Valentine. So Sean and I always would watch horror movies, but that was my favorite. But I always thought, it's incredible, the effects, and I'm not talking like there wasn't computer graphics. There was, we're talking 70s like horror films and stuff. And so I was like, I got to do this. It's something I haven't done. I've done all these other things. I have to do it. So I was like, okay, and I don't do nudity. Like, if my parents can't see it,
then I don't do it.
No. And
that's a good daughter.
Yes. little do they know. But I always kind of ended up the killer, usually. I mean, I don't want to blow it for anybody, but or else I would do it. It was all mainly cameo roles that I did, you know, and I had a blast. I had so much fun.
That's what it's all about, right? Having fun when you do it.
Yes, and it's amazing. I always would find myself just watching the makeup artists, you know, like, you know, there were people that worked for Robert Kurtzman, who's part of KMB, who did Narnia and all sorts of things. And the stuff they do, you know, KMB, Greg Nicotero is he created Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, just watching people that were interning for them, you know, but also meeting these guys you know, I was at horror shows signing autographs and stuff. So it was a fun moment, you know, for me to do that. And I'm always happy if I get to kill somebody on screen. And I mean, it all began with Stephanie on One Life to Live.
Yeah, there you go. And then he ended up not being dead.
No, I shoot him and come back as twins. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, that was funny.
My aim was bad because he was Hawkman. Can't kill him.
You can't kill Hawkman.
No.
If you had your choice, do you have a role you'd have always wanted to play?
I've been very fortunate to play quite a few roles. Right now, I would love to play a person struggling with something, you know, something medically or addiction or something along those lines, or cancer or diabetes or someone, you know, that's going through something. But I love playing like a vixen, like a snotty person. I want to be the lady that takes the earring off to answer the phone.
They did that on soaps way before your time.
I know, and everyone got to do it but me.
Yeah, that was an 80s thing. You'd see them go, you know, take the thing. And
they were amazing. How they did it too. It was like, and I think I actually got to do it in one scene. Yeah, and it's one of my favorite scenes, but it was on Another World, and I just did it on my own. I was like,
the famous clip-on. The famous clip-on.
And I'm answering the phone this side this
time. Tell us about your CD.
Well, Love's Young Nightmare was actually Matthew Jason Walsh, who was a horror writer. He actually wrote horror movies, and this was kind of like it's a drama. You know, some people were saying it reminds them of, like, you know, like Tommy or Pink Floyd. Not that, but just the fact that it's a story. It's about a girl who is nerdy and all of a sudden becomes this rock star, and she ends up just getting into drugs and everything. And you hear it throughout the whole thing. You can see the start, this innocent girl going, you know, haywire. So that was that one. And then I do have a solo CD, which is called Scream. And that was unbelievable to record that. And the music on that originally, a lot of it was not Western, but country. And it was switched to kind of pop. So, you know, there's a song on Scream that's my solo CD that is called Field of Flowers, that was written for me. That kind of stays true, where it's like, you know what, I'm gonna just be happy here in my field of flowers. And, you know, but it's called Scream because there's a really cool song on it where I'm like in an insane asylum type of thing. So.
Oh, cool. Will you do another?
Oh, I would love to. I love singing. I do. I mean, that's the most effortless.
Do you sing at home?
Yes, all the time. My poor dog. Yeah, my poor dog is like, ugh, there's only so many times you can keep trying this song. Like I'll put on YouTube karaoke and try these songs that I like, that I'm like, I'm not sure how this goes, but we'll just try it, you know. And I mean, I'm goofy. I gotta keep my energy going and being happy some way. So
what's the last show you binged and loved?
oh my goodness, I love Below Deck. I like Captain Lee on Below Deck. I love him. Like he's kind of like Kenny Rogers. He's like Kenny Rogers of the sea, you know.
That's so funny.
I like that show. You know, I am an ID fan, so I like all the like Dateline.
Yeah.
You know, 48 Hours, Forensic Files. Forensic Files is on HLN though, but I mean, I like a lot of the, you know, mystery stuff is what I like. But yeah, I always go back to Below Deck. Vanderpump Rules. I mean,
so you're
yeah, I'm a reality person. It ends up that I just like, I'll watch Vanderpump Rules and I'm like, oh, Lisa is absolutely gorgeous. Like, she reminded me of like Joan Collins or something. Like, you know, those eyes.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. But, you know, I love all different types of stuff. But binge watching for me, though, right now is March Madness.
Oh, the basketball. Gotcha. Yeah.
I picked either Baylor or Gonzaga.
Okay. Sorry, that just went there. Do you have a favorite album that you and Mark listened to the most during the pandemic that you would call your COVID album?
Our COVID album. You know, we both, Mark has like Mark plays piano and stuff. And he actually was in Europe when he was younger to play piano for like a jazz thing. It's hard. We both love so many different things. Like,
well,
I know
just the fact that he can play piano and you can sing is like.
Yeah. We did that actually for my niece's wedding. We sang "Bless the Broken Road, Rascal Flats," and that actually is our song too, because, you know, it's a broken road, but you find each other. And I think for us, music is whatever's on, we probably will like. It's rare that we'll turn something off, but I know his favorite is Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, that's just, if Earth, Wind, and Fire comes on, it doesn't matter if you want to hear it or not, you're going to hear it because Mark wants to hear Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I tend to go to, I like Kelly Clarkson a lot.
That's a voice, huh?
Oh my God. I just love her voice. What a range. I like Dua Lipa.
Me too.
I do. Isn't she phenomenal?
She's literally taken the year by, she's really the pandemic story.
Yeah.
One hit after another. She's something.
Yeah, and I like Bruno Mars.
Talented.
I mean, who doesn't? And I like Doja Cat. You know, I like all different types of stuff, but yeah, and I always go back to George Strait.
And Donna.
And Madonna. Oh my gosh, she comes on and I'm like, yes, you know. Yeah, I love Donna Summers. I always will. Yeah,
it's sort of that thing that you're introduced to as a little kid, you know, it just sticks with you sometimes.
Yes. And it's kind of like, another thing I remember is Julie Andrews, you know, when I was younger, and I had many years where I played Gretel in Sound of Music, you know, and I actually, when Julie was doing Victor Victoria on Broadway, I was invited to go on a cast thing, and we went to the Botanical Gardens, and she has this love of roses, and I was sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Mary Poppins, this is like serious, you know? And so it's, you know, I was fortunate enough to have family that listened to a little bit of everything. And
yeah, it gives you a better taste for music.
yes, and Mark is the same way. My husband can listen to country, he can listen to rock. I mean, there's some rap stuff I like, you know. It just depends.
Well, I think I've said it on my show to other people who have told me either that they play piano or that a family member. It's the one instrument that I think is magical because they could change the mood of a room in just putting their
Oh
hands
yeah.
down.
That
Boom.
is so true. And it can change your audition piece too. Depending on how they play and what part of the song they build up. If I have a good pianist or accompanist and they are, and all of them are to have to try and work with me, but if they like where the song is supposed to build really builds up, it makes my job easier. It just makes my sound, my belt come out better. So I think it's amazing how the dynamics you have of piano, you know.
Oh, I love you said my belt. That's awesome.
I'm a belter. I just am.
That's
It's
awesome.
anything.
Robyn, you are a delight. Keep that smile beaming. I hope you know, Godspeed with your fight and keep fighting because you're doing great.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for asking me to be on this. I love it. We have to do it again though when like I don't have boxes everywhere because and like I have a stand for the iPad since my phone didn't work. And
it didn't work, but the iPad. I mean, hey, the iPad did wonders today. So
no, but I just needed that light and a bounce, and I would have been perfect.
Stay well. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
Everybody. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can do so right below. Turn on the notifications to be reminded of all upcoming shows. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week.